Okay, time now to meet our guest on this podcast. Her name is Lydia Fahy and she joins us now. Hello, Lydia.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Meet John.
Hi.
Hi, John.
Do you two know each other?
No.
No.
Just checking. Because John's been a journalist in Peterborough for loads and loads of years. You must have covered way back in the day.
15 years or so.
15 years? Okay.
Here.
Oh. So maybe when you were a journalist, it was post your Miss Peterborough journey.
Possibly.
Let's start with your Miss Peterborough journey briefly.
Yes.
Because that's how we met. You
I
were
know.
taking part in Miss Peterborough. You won that, and then you went on and won Miss East Anglia, and then you represented East Anglia in Miss England. What memories? I mean, that was a number of years back. What memories have you got of taking part in those beauty pageants?
It was, I know it's quite simple, but it was really nice to wear a nice long gown and have different sponsors. Like, I'd never really had a platform of any type. I'm not saying I was necessarily looking for that, but had a local jewellers in Spalding sponsor me, and I wore diamonds to the Miss England final.
Nice.
And for a girl in their early 20s, it was really special. And I had a dress shop sponsor me, and we actually went down to London to one of their wholesalers, and I picked the gowns that I was going to wear in Miss England, and I didn't keep any of them, but it was really special.
That was my question. You'd have thought, you'd have kept a few diamonds, a few nice dresses.
No,
Here and there,
I
just a little,
didn't.
yeah.
No.
Beauty pageants then were very different to how beauty pageants are now, right?
Yes, I think then obviously you had like the bikini round, and that wasn't optional then. Now it is. And you're not really judged on that side of things as much, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think for my confidence and public speaking, it was great for me. It was perfect. I was modelling at the time. It was something I was used to. It wasn't like I was being put into a situation that I didn't want to be in. It was just fun for me.
And from all of that experience, you've now found yourself working in PR, working in marketing. What do you draw from those days in your work now?
I think at the essence of it, people are looking for community connection and to be part of something. And I think from a business perspective, you're trying to add value to people's lives, aren't you? That is what we're trying to do. You're not going to sell something that's not going to add value. So I think I've sort of brought that side of it where it was amazing to be part of something. And it's been a crazy ride since then. I lived in London, I've lived in Dubai, I've lived across the country, and I moved back to Peterborough this time last year. So it's been an interesting journey. But I would say from those early modelling days that were quite hectic and having to be pulled and pushed to different castings and random jobs. Like one day I'd be modelling wigs, and the next day I'd be modelling some random PlayStation. It was just random. It's just totally random.
You didn't know what was coming next.
You never know. You never know. But it was all fun and games then, because as a young girl, I was travelling, I was seeing the world, I was getting out there, and it was great. But now, as a mother of a toddler, the structure is much more, it's nicer. It's much nicer.
So you're glad you moved back to Peterborough?
Oh, it's really
life
strange. It's
back
really
here.
strange. If you'd have asked me before, I'd have thought that strange feeling, but like I was going backwards. But actually I'm home and I'm around my family and like getting to meet everybody again. Like I've not seen you in years. It's amazing. I really enjoy it. And I think I've got to that part in my life where community actually is a big deal. And I do appreciate who's around me, and it's nice. It's a nice feeling.
John, that's interesting, isn't it? Just picking up on how many people who, I guess, were born or grew up in Peterborough, went off, did their thing, but so many come back.
And returned.
Returned.
Yeah, I know a journalist who went off to live in Australia for several years, in Sydney, and every year he lamented the fact that he wasn't at the Peterborough Beer Festival and he wasn't watching the Posh every week, and he came back. Amen. So it's the lure of the Posh and the lure of Peterborough. And the lure of home.
You can take the person out of Peterborough, but you can't take Peterborough out of the person.
Yeah.
Is that a phrase?
Everyone says
It is now.
Yeah.
Somebody who visits Peterborough, a friend of mine, says everything's within 10 minutes. And that sort of stuck with me, because wherever else you live, it's not. But if you live in Peterborough, everywhere is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's
And you
easy.
can be from the centre out into the countryside within 10 minutes as well.
So it is a city that you're proud of.
Yes, of course. I'm definitely going to stay here now. And it's really nice to see Ethan, my son, grow up here and feel his roots. Does that make sense? He
Yeah.
knows where he's
He knows
from.
his roots. I think that's really
Yeah.
key. You're now a PR and marketing expert, and I've had a little look on your website. It's called Ivy the Agency. Truths told, trust earned. I mean, it's a really cool looking website. You do a lot of national work.
Yes.
Who do you work for nationally?
Nikki Clark is a big one. So they look after I look after his salons and his hair
The
tools.
hair, all the hair stuff.
Yeah. I actually worked in corporate marketing for just under 5 years. This is where I got like my main exposure. So I started as a marketing exec. I worked my way up to marketing manager, and then I headed up the marketing department for a furniture company called Hammond's Furniture. And by the time I got to the head of marketing, I worked very closely with the owner, and I had autonomy over the marketing budget. Whereas when you go into a multi-million-pound business, usually you have roles that are kind of bolted on. You'll have a campaign manager, an ads manager, a social manager, and I actually had pretty much the buck fell at me for everything. So the exposure was incredible.
So you learnt a lot.
I learned
all
a lot.
the various elements of
Honestly,
marketing.
there's one thing that I can say is if you want to be in marketing and you want to get involved in it, it may be Instagram, it may be a small business, and you have the opportunity to work in a business where you can get exposure, do it. Like, experience, I think, is everything. Like, I would not be here now without that experience from a corporate role. And I'm not saying that's the only way. There's lots of ways you can go about it. But years gone by, when I lived in London, I started a jewellery business. And it did quite well. I got it into magazines. I got it on Test Daily. It was on a few good... she was on Strictly Come Dancing. It was kind of looking like it was taking off. And I was getting quite a few orders every day, but I was hand making them myself. And I hit a wall where I didn't know how to leverage the business. I didn't understand finance. I didn't understand how I could get somebody to, whether it be a business loan or whether it be an investor. And I hit a wall because my family aren't from that background. My family just normal. And I realised that I really enjoyed the business side of it. I was playing with Instagram when it kind of like first took off. And I realised that I needed more. I needed to know more. I needed to understand how to leverage what I was doing. So then I looked for a job in marketing, and I thought I need to go back to basics and work my way up. And that's exactly what I did.
That's interesting. That's like a proper journey then to get where you are now. Let's kind of bring it back to more to Peterborough. You're doing the marketing now for a couple of Peterborough businesses. What can you share with us on that?
So yeah, it's amazing. So I'm looking after Katana restaurant in Peterborough.
You've been there, John, haven't you?
I have. It was great.
It's actually it's near where you live, isn't it?
It's a 5-minute walk from my door. Maybe not even that. Although some of the tables are too high for me. I didn't quite need the toddler seat, but it was,
Lydia.
There's all types of seats there. From a marketing perspective, looking after Katana is like the most amazing backdrop. Every time you walk in, it's just incredible. You've got like so many opportunities. No, it's
For those who don't know, Katana is an Asian
Pan-Asian cuisine
style cuisine. It's a beautiful setting.
Wonderful
it's a
building.
Massive
Yeah.
restaurant.
great food, great staff as well. So yeah,
Great
it's-
cocktails.
It's where the old Gastons used to be.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
And they also
On
have a
Broadway.
bar now, which you actually came to an event, didn't you? I
did.
invited you to an
Yeah,
event
this
a few
bar
weeks
was
ago.
cool because they've teamed up with a champagne brand.
Yep.
I thought you said then. I thought you said they also have a barn owl. I was going to say, like, I didn't
There
see
is
him.
a massive blossom tree as you walk in, so you never know.
I did not notice him.
It's
But
not-
sorry,
No,
a bar
a
now.
bar.
Not
Yeah.
a barn owl.
No.
A bar now.
It's called Bubbles Bar.
Bubbles.
And they've partnered with Champagne Bollinger. So I think it's the first champagne lounge in the city at the moment. And when you came to the event, you gave me a really interesting story about it. Used to be an old piano bar.
Pete's Boyzo, the Boyzo Lounge.
Yeah, see, I don't know about that. But now when I go in there, I kind of feel like we need a piano in there. I don't know. It's
You
just
need a
like,
baby grand in the
I
corner.
need
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But the beauty of this I say space bar is we actually have DJs in there at the weekend. There's a really good night on tomorrow night. So it's not just, I wouldn't try and put it in your mind that it's just champagne, eloquent drinking. There is a nice area to dance. And I think what Peterborough is lacking, in my personal opinion, is a place where you can get dressed up, go and have a nice drink, potentially have some bar snacks, and also have a dance and feel relaxed. And, you know, I feel like that's
I
missing.
do. And
Hang about. What about flares?
Goodo. It's you might get that actually with the skylight bar when it opens at the hotel.
Yes, that looks amazing.
So
yeah.
you might get that to accompany it as
But
well.
you need more than one,
of
don't
course.
you? It's
yeah.
like you like to bar hop sometimes,
Well,
don't
that's a
you?
mile away, you know.
Yeah.
That's you know the other side of the Neen, isn't it? So yes, you are right.
I was only joking about flares. My
So was I. Yeah, people enjoy it.
I grew up in flares.
My daughter goes to flares. I was more of a Shanghai Sam sort of guy. I think it's a really interesting concept. So it's not now just a restaurant and a place where you can get drinks, but it's a place where you can go out and have a dance and, like you say,
it's
get
really
dressed up and
nice.
have some food. And that's in the Bollinger Bar.
So it's the Bubbles Bar.
Bubbles Bar.
And they're in partnership with Bollinger.
With Bollinger, okay.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm really keen to get to in our time with you is, because you're an expert in PR and marketing, if there's anybody listening to this podcast who's maybe involved as a small business, Lydia, before we finish, is going to give us some tips, some basic tips to try and boost your small business simply.
Because it can be quite intimidating
Yeah,
when you start
yeah.
and you look at other accounts that have got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of
Big
followers.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that you're like, oh my goodness, where do I start?
Yeah.
So
But before we get onto that, I'd like to just touch into Silu Wellness, which is another business that you're doing the PR and marketing for. Both John and I, we've heard of Silu.
I've been there.
Have you actually been to
Yeah,
Silu?
when back in my previous role, Peterborough Matters, I did an advertising feature there,
Okay.
and I did some yoga. What's it? Well, you're gonna. I'm sure you know when it's in a hot condition.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I looked terrible doing it, obviously, but you know, it's an environment where nobody's
get
judged or
transported,
anything
don't
like that.
you?
Yeah, I felt really good about myself afterwards.
Well, we
and
need to-
again, the staff really lovely, and they know their stuff.
We
Yeah.
need to paint a picture of what this is in a moment. But I think I'm quite passionate about promoting better mental health and better physical health. I think wellness. You know, you reach a certain age, I'm at that certain age where I need to make sure that I'm really thinking about what am I doing to keep myself fit and healthy and well. And I mean physically and mentally, because they're both completely intertwined, aren't they? So here's a business in Peterborough that is clearly state of the art. I've had a little look on their website, but maybe does need a better marketing campaign so that more and more people like me
Yeah,
can know about the ways that you can make yourself
I think
feel
a
better.
lot of people don't know where it is as
Yeah.
well. That's
So
one of the
I've
issues I would
literally
imagine.
just taken them on the
As a
agency
client.
last week.
Okay.
So tips for businesses. When I first look at a business, if a business approaches me and says they need some help, I think you've got to remember that you can't dictate value to somebody. A customer will experience it from you. So you've got to be careful how you promote your offers. So don't make it too complicated. Understand that, especially with social media, people are flicking. It's quick. They want to be able to digest it in small chunks. So if you was to put, say, a post up that's very copy heavy, and then somebody was to say, go to your feed and see lots of promotion, lots of copy, it's...
By copy, you mean loads and loads of words?
Yeah, so say you've got a picture and you write, I don't know, so many words on the picture, and you can understand they're trying to be informative and get something across to their potential customer, but you've got to understand that people just don't have the time. And especially when they jump onto your feed, it needs to be clean and it needs to look good. It's not just about shouting. And I know that is quite an obvious one, but I think sometimes people get lost in their offers and they forget their key drivers. So everything that you base your business on, so the value that you're offering somebody, it's not about just a strap line, it's about what is driving the business and how are you adding service to people. And then when you create a campaign underneath that, does it fit with your story? Does it fit with your authenticity? If you don't know, ask people and say, are you going in the right direction or are you veering off? And I think the way to know that is look at your current customer. Who are they? And I think that one of the first questions I ask when I sit down with a new client is I ask them to tell me who their customer is. Name them. What's their age? Where do they live? Where do they shop? Where do they go at the weekend? How do they spend their disposable money?
It's like personas, really.
Yeah, they're your customer profiles, and then if you're kind of really at the baseline of that, put it on a poster and stick it on the wall. And then every time you create a campaign, look at that person and say, would you like it? Are you going to enjoy this campaign? And work towards that, and don't veer too much away from that person, and really understand where your potential customer is spending their money and how are you going to add value to their life to come to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it does. I mean, if there's small businesses listening, I mean, this is like really good advice. Social media is where it's at, correct?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of touch points. I think SEO is still there, so creating a website that's immersive, informative.
You're using a lot of jargon, and I want to make sure listeners to this podcast.
So SEO is search engine optimization. So if you can imagine, when I take on a new client, I go straight onto their Google Analytics and I see how much they're spending on ads, how much their organic traffic is, how much their direct is. So say you go onto Google and you just search. Usually the top is an ad if they've got ads on. But then you scroll down and you see an organic search term. So that's somebody who is looking after their website. They're focusing on what people are searching. And then you can, over time, you can decrease your ad spend on Google, let's say, by increasing the good information on your website. Does that make sense? So rather than paying to be on Google, you are giving people enough information, so it's called crawling. So you're ranking on Google, where you can get up there on page 1 without paying so much.
So that's just being much, much smarter, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
and
working
getting someone
smart.
who knows what they're talking about to go, okay, my business, I sell towels and I want to be the number one towel seller in Peterborough. There are smart ways of doing it.
Definitely.
Through searches.
Yeah.
So aside from SEO, I mean, everyone's on TikTok now. There's so many different social media platforms, and I guess if you're a small business that wants to be seen and heard about, you need to be on all of these social media channels. But I'm too busy selling towels. I can't look after my own social media.
We go back to your customer profile. Where are they mostly? So it's are they on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? And I think if you're a small business, it's about taking one piece of content and trying your best to edit it in a way for that platform. So you're not necessarily refilming it for every profile. You've got you film your content and then you think, how does Instagram like this to look? How does Facebook like this to look? How does TikTok like this to look? And I feel like with TikTok, people enjoy people talking. They enjoy people, little sound bites, information. Whereas when you go onto Instagram, it's much more like inspirational. It's a kind of like a softer sell. Whereas I find TikTok, I can buy something on TikTok like that and I didn't even know I bought it. It's like the impulse is crazy. And it's like you can sell something to me on TikTok in about 3 seconds and I'm a goner, and then I'm like, what is this that comes through the post?
I've just bought Kev's towels.
I've just bought Kev's towels. He'd shaped them into a swan and I was sold.
If you're listening to this podcast and you want to get more information about the work that Lydia does, she clearly knows her stuff. Just look her up on her website, Ivy, the agency. And maybe you can sort of log into the What We Do sections of her website. I wanted to bring it back to Silu because I was mentioning and thinking about John and his yoga experience there. This is a Peterborough company that could be celebrated, and I know they do a lot of brilliant work. But in a nutshell, talk to us about the yoga they do and what other services do Silu offer for people like me that want to feel better about themselves, health wise and mental health wise and also physically wise.
So the first time I walked into Silu, I'd looked them up online and I wasn't prepared for what I was walking into. So it was like, it's in Westwood. And if you live in Peterborough, you may know where the party place is. It's kind of like opposite the party place. And you walk in and I felt like I was being transported to, it was kind of like a cross between Ibiza and a high-end Harley Street medical clinic. And I couldn't quite put my finger on where I was. And as soon as I walked in...
Can I just come in? You're in Westwood.
Yes,
in Peterborough,
exactly.
And it's making you think of being in Ibiza or a Harley Street clinic.
Yeah, but so this is it. I sat down with the owner, James, and it's basically come from his passion of this area, and he's brought it to life through his knowledge and what he's trying to do in the local community, and he is trying to help people live better. And what he's created is incredible. They do sort of one-off treatments. You go in there for a massage. They've just launched IV therapy, and they're certified, which I think they're the only certified wellness centre in the region that is doing that. where they offer anything from like menopause to pre-match to just loads of different therapies. So you can go off for one-off therapies, but then they also have memberships where you can have a fitness membership, a wellness membership where you can go and do yoga, hot yoga, or you can sort of like wrap it up into like massive packages. So yeah, it's really a place of somewhere that you can go to get fit, to get well, and also potentially have some tweakments, they call it, don't they?
Tweakments.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of out of time. I mean, we could have carried on and on and on and on, but we're kind of out of time in terms of our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And for coming in. One quick question maybe to finish, and we were talking earlier about Reels and TikTok and Instagram, etc. Tell me about the number one video or bit of content that you've put out there in terms of its reach. What piece of content have you made that's reached tons and tons of people? How many people did it reach, and what was the content? We want to finish on a high.
There's so many. I did tell you about TikTok, didn't I? There was it was a while ago when I was doing, I think it was Christmas, and there was a cleaning reel and it reached 1 million views.
Boom. See that, John? 1 million views. We would love a Peterborough podcast little reel clip to go.
In my old house, I also stenciled my garden paving slabs, and it went crazy on YouTube. And I was known for about 6 months as the woman that stenciled her paving slabs. This was from my blog a few years ago.
Hundreds of thousands of people saw it.
Oh, it was crazy. I think I also have a blog, and it's still, I think I get about 60,000 views just through my blog because people are searching how to stencil paving slabs. It's crazy.
It's all about jumping on that thing, and then it goes.
You never know what's going to go.
It's great to see you back in Peterborough.
Thank you,
Lydia. Really good to hook up with you again. Good luck with everything you're doing. Reference the Ivy the agency. And it's been interesting, John, hasn't it, to have kind of Lydia's insight to business and marketing.
Yeah, it has things for us to think about as well, as we've only just started with this.
We're launching our little podcast. We're going to take some of your advice.
I think if there's any local businesses that just want a chat, I think sometimes when you hear the word agency or marketing agency, you think of something, a place that's going to be really expensive. And I don't want people to be put off by it, because we do offer reasonable packages, whether it is 1 or 2 areas of your business that just need looking at. So just get in touch and we'll see what we can do.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Lydia, Ivy the agency, our guest on this podcast, which wraps it up, and we will see you soon in a couple of weeks for the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you for downloading the Peterborough podcast, and we will talk again next time.